How do you define something as the greatest? I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing that every human possesses is their prefrontal cortex, allowing them to have an opinion. And when you talk about something as universally as loved as movies, everyone has their favorite. But that wasn't the question. How do you figure out what is the singular greatest of any category of thing? Well, to figure out the answer to this question, it would take someone who has an incredibly obsessive personality, who loves movies, and has deemed themselves worthy of answering this impossible question. So I guess I'm the guy for the job. So rest assured that by the end of this video, we will answer the question once and for all, what is the greatest movie of all time? All right, so let's get started. The Godfather. Okay, this is a good start. It is the single most typical white man thing ever to say that The Godfather is the greatest movie ever made. And it certainly isn't gonna help my reputation as every white man ever when I say this, but it's hard to fathom how amazing this movie is until you watch it. I mean, every moment of this movie is storytelling in cinema at its literal finest. The performances from even the smallest side characters to the industry-altering performances by Marlon Brando and Al Pacino, watching this movie feels like you're watching through windows into rooms you shouldn't be in. Learning the secrets to crime underworlds that could exist in our world. There isn't a moment of this movie, even 50 plus years later, that feels dated. I guess that gives good definition to the word timeless. I haven't even mentioned the costume design, the music, the lighting. But none of this comes close to touching this movie's greatest quality, its character development. Every character grows as the minutes tick by, and nobody leaves this movie the same character they started as. To elaborate further than that would be to spoil some of the greatest moments in cinema history. I say again, this movie is over 50 years old, but if you enjoy movies and haven't seen The Godfather, you simply must. Even if you're a common holdout who believes they won't enjoy this movie for whatever reason, I encourage you to give it a try. You won't regret it. Okay, so that does it for this video. I did my job, and I'll see you all next time.
Part 2 is better than part 1.
Oh shit, you might be right. I truly do think there's nothing more impressive in any medium than when a sequel definitively outdoes the original. Cases of this are insanely rare anywhere, but especially in movies. But it's hard to argue that Godfather Part 2 is not one of these rare cases. I mean, taking everything that worked so perfectly in the original and not needing to take the time to establish main characters or their motivations gives nothing but space for expansion. And I don't know that this has ever been done better than in The Godfather Part 2.
The Empire Strikes Back.
Dude, shut up. This is my distinguished job, not yours. And fuck, you might be right. Taking one good look at me, and it's pretty easy to clock me as a Star Wars fan, yet somehow that would be an understatement. And in removing my bias as much as humanly possible, it's hard to say that there's ever been a better sequel than The Empire Strikes Back. For so many of the same ways as Godfather Part 2, Empire doesn't waste a single moment milking its pre-established relationships and character dynamics for everything they're worth. This is the exact thing that can so commonly find sequels falling short of the original. It can feel like rehashed garbage that is playing with your connection to the characters of these fictional worlds. But with Empire, damn, the milk has never tasted better. This movie's scale dwarfs the original in every possible way, but never gets lost for a moment in needless exposition or useless character development. Every moment feels earned and rewarding. The stakes grow as the story progresses, and you never know what turn the story is going to take next. 45 years later, and the brilliance of the unpredictability of this movie is taken for granted in countless ways, not even including the obvious example. And as much as I hate disembodied voices interrupting me, and again, with as little of my bias in the equation as possible, it's hard to say that this isn't the greatest sequel ever made, and a top contender for the greatest movie ever made, period. But to truly showcase how seriously I am taking this job of deciding the greatest movie of all time once and for all, I can't in good conscience consider sequels. I know, but hear me out. If this video was titled My Favorite Movie of All Time, this video would have been over a while ago. But in trying to decide the greatest movie of all time, it becomes impossible to consider sequels. The reason why is hidden in the question. Greatest movie, not movies. And even if I personally agree that these aforementioned sequels, along with many others, usurp their originals, they don't exist without them. You can't sit someone down and show them any of these movies without some knowledge of the original. And if you did, rightfully so, they wouldn't have as deep of an impact, if any at all. So I must declare, as the person in charge of this world-altering decision, that sequels are not permitted to be the singular greatest movie of all time. Okay, shush. I'm the one holding the microphone, not you. Okay, so this doesn't necessarily change our original answer of The Godfather, but for the sake of fairness, let's look into a few other options. Oh shit, yeah, this is a good pick. The Shawshank Redemption holds many honors among movie fans of all walks of life, but none more illustrious than the rare honor of being a movie adaptation of a book that entirely eclipses its source material in nearly every way. At every possible moment, this movie chooses to expand the characters and stories that are held within the book and grow a handful of original stories that have become some of the most powerful moments in movie history. This is compounded with the single greatest voiceover in the history of humanity from Morgan Freeman and one of the most heartfelt stories of friendship and humanity ever captured, period. If there was one point I might give Shawshank over The Godfather, is it might just be a little more universally enjoyable. Don't get me wrong, Shawshank has its hard-to-watch mature moments, same as The Godfather, but the overall hopefulness and ultimate resolution of the story lends to a more universally agreeable and enjoyable outcome than the more ponderous and morally open ending of The Godfather. I truly don't think that either of these movies have a singular thing to be negatively put against them on paper. But considering the rare esteem that Shawshank holds of being a superior adaptation from its original, that pretty much answers the question of what is the greatest movie of all time.
The Godfather was adapted from a book too, you moron.
God, would you stop making good points? Okay, we're back with a new rule, everyone. No adaptations! This makes my job significantly easier because it removes a near endless list of movies that would have been in contention if a disembodied voice would stop interrupting me and making fair arguments. I have decided that if a movie is not entirely original, it cannot be the greatest movie of all time. You may ask yourself why, and the answer is because I said so. Okay, so where does this leave us? Haven't seen it. In all seriousness, I do find it interesting that most of the movies that would be commonly considered the greatest of all time are adaptations. If you're a cyclical bookworm, you may look at this as movies having an inherent unoriginal quality, but for how many of these adaptations end up being garbage, it actually strengthens these shining examples of excellence. But now that we removed more than 50% of our options, we can narrow in on movies that are entirely original, that aren't sequels, and that I've seen. Okay, I think we might have found it. Revolutionary, iconic, and it's... What the fuck? Ah! Hi, I'm on the floor now. And it is here on the floor I will stay, as I have realized I have failed. Because there is no way to figure out the singular greatest movie ever made. See, I've realized the thing that makes movies so special is the way that they've impacted the individuals who watch them. No list or amount of awards can ever define the opinion of an entire species, and there'll always be a disembodied voice interrupting me making fair arguments that make this question impossible to answer. And when you take into account people's differing tastes, attention spans, and hell, even belief system, it's impossible to know what the singular best of any one thing is, especially movies. No matter how sure I was that I would leave you with a definitive answer, I must resign as the singular white man holding a microphone and vow to never ask such important questions ever again. Until I inevitably ask another question like this in the future.
What's the greatest album of all time?
You motherfucker.